Hello and welcome to Martin Lucas Investor. My name is Sensei and you're watching the Morning Forecast Show. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We've got some interesting news. We've got Trump and Netanyahu basically declaring victory, but the markets aren't believing them. And I think rightfully so. So let's get into all of that information. Let's look at the markets, which the S&P 500 is already down this morning, heading into that open, which we'll be covering in a couple hours' time. But yeah, the S&P 500, if we look at it right now, it is down 0.5% on the pre-market trading, 0.56. It was actually as low as nearly 0.8% this morning. So the markets certainly aren't believing them because the market is the lowest it's been since November of 2025. The gold, we saw gold collapse yesterday, silver collapse yesterday. We did do some buys in the portfolio challenge. Oil doesn't believe them because oil is still staying quite high. This is US WTI crude oil. That is up at around sorry, that's something in my face. That's up around $100, and it's staying there, which obviously is a concern for inflation around the world. And we've got the S&P 500, which is the main thing we're looking at today. If the markets believed the war was over, close to being over, if everything, all the objectives have been met, then the S&P 500 would not be down this much. So I wouldn't say the markets are believing the rhetoric from Netanyahu and Trump. Yes, neither of them have come out and said the war is over, but we have seen different comments from both of them. The war is ending a lot faster. We've completely obliterated them. They've got nothing left. The war can be over in a minute, this, that, and the other. We're going to go through some exact wording of what they've said. But the markets aren't believing them. And we've got a poll running right now. Do you believe them? Do you think it's over? Let me know in that poll. Let's go over to one of the clips that started this yesterday. This is Benjamin Netanyahu in his press conference yesterday. Let me make sure we're not muted.
That is definitely possible. So I see that as a real change that will follow this this war. I see that is definitely possible. So done away with the choke points forever. That is definitely possible. So I see that as a real change that will follow this.
Here we go. He says it now.
This war, but I also see this war ending a lot faster than people think. I think you have to, in war, you have to grit your teeth. Churchill said.
He did make a reference there saying this war can end a lot quicker than people think. We've got some other clips from this I'd like to show you. This is the press conference from yesterday. If we go to over here, this is where a lot of people are saying, or there's lots of reports saying that Israel, that Trump just followed Israel's suit. Let's have a clip. Let's have a look at this clip here.
Fact number one, Israel acted alone against the Slawia gas compound.
Remember, this is the gas compound that Trump wasn't very happy being blown up because this caused the markets to have its secondary move down. Let's listen to it again. And Israel is admitting that they acted alone on this one.
Israel acted alone against the Slawia gas compound. Fact number two, President Trump asked us to hold off on future attacks, and we're holding out. What do we see? What happens if the are there any signs that the Iranian regime is cracking? A lot of signs. A lot of signs. I wish I could divulge all of them, but I see that. But will I tell you, will I commit right now that it's going to collapse? I can tell you that we're working to create the conditions for it to collapse, but it may.
So there we go. Regime change is sort of off the table. It doesn't look like they're going off after that anymore because they couldn't deliver on that. Let's go over to the next clip over here. I've got ready 21. Here we go.
Have no future, and therefore we're doing what we can. As far as oil prices rising,
oil prices,
spikes. You know what a spike is? You know what a spike is? It goes up and goes down. The Americans are working very hard, and we're trying to help them in every way that we can to open the Straits of Hormuz. And if they succeed, which I think they will, then oil prices will come down. But if you say, all right, I'm suffering right now.
So Benjamin Netanyahu, they're saying it's just going to be a spike, straight up, straight down for oil. Right now, we're still in the up phase. We've got a clip here that caused a lot of. Thank you, Paul D. Bless you. Sorry, I couldn't hear, I couldn't mute it in time. Uh, we've got a clip here that caused a lot of outrage in the Christian and Muslim uh, communities that Benjamin Netanyahu said. If you've probably seen it on social media by now, but let's go to it here.
Page book, in which he said, well, history proves that, unfortunately and unhappily, Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan. Because
And that that remark there really, I mean, this is about 4 billion, about 2.5 billion Christians and about 2 billion Muslims were not very happy with the way he's saying that Jesus Christ, who's a prophet in the Islam in the Islamic religion and is a very important figure in the Christian religion. Some Christians will say he's God. Um, and he's just said that Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan. That obviously was causing some issues throughout the world. So what I want to do there is just show you some clips that were important because this is the first time Netanyahu has come out from that press conference. We didn't get to cover it live, but those were some of the clips from it. I can show you a couple more.
fake news that is unfortunately being spread since the start of the war 20 days ago. We are winning and Iran is being decimated. Iran's missile and drone arsenal is being massively degraded and will be destroyed. Hundreds of their launchers have been destroyed. Their stockpiles of missiles are being hit hard, and so are the industries that produce them. That's important. In Rising Line, we destroyed missiles and we destroyed a lot of the nuclear infrastructure. But what we're destroying now are the factories that produce the components to make these missiles and to make the nuclear weapons that they're trying to produce. We're wiping out their industrial base in a way that we didn't do before.
Anyway, that's the references from the press conference there. We had a lot of reports after that press conference and also after Trump's press conference with the Japanese Prime Minister. If we go over to one of our stories today in the newsletter, first link in the description if anyone wants to get it, we essentially had stories coming out that saying Netanyahu's declaring victory and he offends two religions. So let's read this story that we've also sort of replicated and put into our newsletter this morning. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held his first English language press conference of the war yesterday and managed to move markets. He provoked a diplomatic firestorm and insulted billions of people in a single setting. The headline for traders came first. Netanyahu claimed Israel had destroyed Iran's ability to enrich uranium and manufacture ballistic missiles. And that's the line there where Netanyahu's saying that he's destroyed the ability to enrich uranium, which they said they did last time, but let's say they did it again this time, and they've destroyed the ability for them to manufacture ballistic missiles. That is essentially the targets of the war. If you remember what was laid out as the reasons for going to war was because of the ballistic missiles and the enriched uranium, even though there was deals on the table, whatever. They said it was about enriched uranium and ballistic missiles. Netanyahu claimed yesterday they have destroyed Iran's ability, and therefore, if they've reached their military objectives, the news and reporters are asking, how come the war's not ended, or does this mean that the war is ended? If you've reached your targets, if you've reached your objectives, then the assumption there is the war is ended. However, the markets don't believe it. So he also said that the war will end a lot faster than people think, and he confirmed that Israel acted alone in striking Iran's South Pars gas field. He added that Trump has asked Israel to hold off on future energy strikes and that Israel would comply. Brent crude has surged to $119 a barrel earlier in the session on the back of the South Pars and the Ras Laffan damage, reversed sharply on the comments and settled at around $108. So initially, When Netanyahu came out and gave this conference, it sounded like a victory. It sounded like they've reached their objectives. The markets were like, okay, the war is ending. However, and we saw the US stock market rally last night, late into the session. But then the optimism lasted as long as it took you to read the transcript. So then came the rest of the press conference. Defending the war's moral logic, Netanyahu quoted historical Will Durant, the lesson of history, declaring Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan. Because if you are strong, and I don't, because if you're strong enough, ruthless enough, powerful enough, evil will overcome good. And I don't feel very comfortable reading that quote, so I do apologize for reading that, but we are just reiterating what the news is. The remark went viral within hours. Netanyahu later took to social media, calling the backlash fake news and insisting he was simply quoting Durant's argument that more civilizations still need military strength. But the damage was done. Jesus is not only a central figure of Christianity, but also reverted in Islam as the prophet, one of the most important messages of God in the Quran. Dismissing him as no better than a genocidal conqueror offends both faiths simultaneously. The comparison was delivered on the eve of Eid al-Fitr, the celebration marking the end of Ramadan, while Israel kept the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, one of the Islam's most holiest sites, closed to worshippers for the first time since the Eid on 1967. Over 4,200 people across the region have been killed in the 3-week conflict. For roughly 2.2 billion Christians and nearly 2 billion Muslims, the optics of wartime leader reducing the figure sacred to both faiths to a rhetorical device while bombs fell on worshippers during their holiest days could not have been worse. Markets treated Netanyahu's ceasefire language as a reason to sell oil. It sounded like the war was ending with his remarks. Military objectives hit. The markets initially treated it as a reason to sell oil and buy equities, but the rally unraveled overnight as Kuwait and UAE facilities took fresh strikes during Eid. The markets have repeated this pattern several times this month, and this is what we keep getting. Please be aware of it. Optimistic remarks followed by continued escalation. Optimistic remarks followed by continued escalation. Watch the spread between Brent crude futures and physical spot benchmarks like Dubai's at $166. When that gap starts narrowing, it's a real sign of de-escalation. Until then, treat verbal ceasefire talk as noise. And that's what I want to put out there today. We've got many references, and we've had them over the last couple of weeks, and we had them again yesterday with Trump and especially Netanyahu. The war objectives have been hit. It's ending faster than you think. It's going to be finished. Don't believe it until you start seeing the futures in Dubai or some of these Middle Eastern countries come down and start closing that gap. Oil is at $166 in Dubai. Once that starts coming closer to 100, closer to the price for around the world or Brent prices, then we can start seeing the markets believe it. And also, we will always keep the markets unbelieving either. I'm going to go over to your comments and questions in a second, but that was the first story that's been going around overnight. Also, Trump's remarks about Pearl Harbor, which is causing a lot of issues around the world. I know Martyn was not very happy with those remarks, and neither is, I would say, most of America. Even Trump die-hard supporters. So, some of the top stories today before we break down some of those stories in more detail. Hormuz crisis spikes fuel prices. Attacks on energy infrastructure drive crude costs significantly higher. Record oil release fails the market. Remember last week we covered the release of, what was it, 500 million barrels of 500 million? A lot of barrels of oil, and it did nothing. Trump gave strains Japan's alliance. The president offended allies by comparing current strikes to Pearl Harbor. We'll come on to that. We've got Netanyahu claiming victory amid black backlash. Israel claims crippled Iranian capabilities despite causing major diplomatic outrage. And the US rejects oil export ban. Officials dismiss export restrictions because infrastructure limits would worsen inflation. Let's go over to your comments. We've got a poll running right now. I'm going to change the poll to what people think about the comments. So let's end that poll. start a new one. Are you offended by the Israeli PM's comments degrading Jesus? I know a lot. What we've seen online is a lot of the Muslim community and the Christian community is very unhappy with that. Let me see what our community thinks about it. Are you offended by the Israeli PM comments degrading? Um, um, not the right word. Use. Let me just go. Um, okay, let's go through your comments and then we're going to go out to the market and look at specific opportunities as well. Oh, why has the poll not come on? Oh, there we go. The poll's now live. Yes or no? I certainly didn't like it, so I'll put yes. Let me see. We'll run that poll. Let me know your thoughts. Let's go and see who's in the chat. Good morning, Banana Heads. Is Ricardo Jacko is here. Scottish Pete says good morning, troops. Paul D says good morning, Sensei. I hope everyone is well. Scottish Pete is here. Paul D, smash the like on your way in. Yes, please do hit that like button. We're going to go into the markets, answer your questions, and go through our other stories of the day. But we're starting with those that breaking story from yesterday's news conference. Paul D says nice. Robert Elliott is here. Hello. Chris is here. Rhino Skin says hello, everyone. Mickey is here. Slavin says you have no clue, all scammers. You don't have a clue, all scammers. What do you mean, Slavin? Who are you talking to? Iran won't let this end, says Jerry. DJ Haynes says Netanyahu wants boots on the ground. Yes, there are reports of that, DJ Haynes, and he might be asking the US to put boots on the ground for him. Yolanda says, good morning all. Tidy Big Dog says, hello everyone. Abu Katie says, there's a saying, fool me once, fool me twice, but fool me 3 times, that's on me, says Abu Kati. Paul D says, bless you, Sensei, thank you. Never acting alone. US knows everything they do. Yes. Is this live? This is live. Teletime. We are live. Looks like was a recording at time. Oh, we are live, but that press conference was not live. That was from yesterday. Mr. Craig says, morning, everyone. Jerry says they are both Prentice clowns, Netanyahu for that Jesus comment and Trump for the Hiroshima comment. Yeah, it's not good, is it? Potato Family, Sensei, thank you for doing your show and being there for us no matter what. Thank you, Potato Family. Appreciate it. Paul D says, do you putty the full joke if you get it? If you get it. Pity, not putty. Can we lay off the TDS? What does TDS mean? What does that mean? Awesome guy says Mr. Craig. Potato Family says, what's up? Lovely to have you here. Oil is selling off. Is oil selling off? Let's have a look. No, it's not. Oil is still at 94 on WTI. We had a poll. Trump and Netanyahu say the war can end very soon. Do you believe them? No. The markets are right to doubt it. That was the number one. 40% of you said that. Yes, it's ending 32%. Maybe too early to tell 28%. Well, I'll tell you what the market is pricing in. And here is how you find out what the market is pricing in, because people put their money where their mouth is and no one wants to lose their money. So the most accurate numbers would be here. It's also you have to take into account the spread that the betting companies get, but you will be able to see what is the most likely event. So March, by the end of March, 7% chance, so essentially no chance. By the end of 15th of April, 20% chance. That's not looking great. End of May, 30% chance. Still not brilliant. End of April, 32% chance. End of May, 42% chance. It's still not over 50%. End of June, that's when we go over 50%. So it's sometime between the May and June, the end of May and the end of June. So we're looking potentially around middle of June. The markets are pricing in the war to be ended, and that's just when it's over 50%. there's still a massive 29% chance that this war is going to continue into 2027. There's a 29% chance that this war will continue into 2027. I mean, no one, the markets and the Federal Reserves are certainly not pricing that in. And I don't think if the Federal Reserve is pricing this in to go into June. So the markets are, the betting markets are saying this war will not end until middle of June. Now that, if that does occur, that is another few months of oil prices this high, and that will have effects, major effects for economies around the world. Happy Friday, says Ninja Cowboy. Sorry, this chat just jumped. Trump can't help putting his foot in all the time. Songs for Space says markets cooled until war is over and production is back up. The production of LNG and oil will take months, if not years, to get back up. Recession guaranteed. Yeah, you can't just shut off a pipeline and just get it back up and running in seconds. That's not how it works. Once you shut a pipeline, it takes a long time to get the flow running again and getting all the systems in place. Dan says don't care. I know a lot of non-religious people won't care about the comments, which is fine. Everyone has their own opinions. Yolanda says hello, David. Abu Kasi says just a couple hours ago they hit a hospital in Lebanon. They just hit a hospital. Yeah, it's never good to see civilian targets been hit. But we've seen them do it over and over again. I mean, we've seen what happened to Gaza, haven't we? We've seen it got completely flattened. Ganja says one gets so offended nowadays, says Ganja. Well, I mean, if it's the most important figure in your religion, especially for Christians, you can understand why Christians aren't happy with Benjamin Netanyahu's. This is not just saying I don't like transgender people and that offends people. This is talking about a god in the Christian religion and one of the most important prophets of the Muslim religion. This is people's religion, which is, I guess, a bit more important than other things people can disagree on. David Hensley says, I don't think I'll ever get over the stuff about how everyone gets so easily offended because of what somebody said. It's so crazy with all the crybabies we have in the world. Mr. Thank you, David Hensley, for your thoughts. Mr. Craig says, I'm sure Trump will make it happen. Sure, markets will wake up soon, or let's hope so. Yes, everyone's hoping for the war to end soon. It's just the market's not believing it. How are you, Sensei Binky Bonk? Doing very great. And yourself? Thank you for asking. Paul D says, agree, that was very unpresidential. Should have been phrased differently to get the point across. Songs for Space, it's over, long road ahead. David Hensley says, Sensei, can you update us when your trading signals are available, how we get them? Yes, it is. I've updated everyone. Next Wednesday, training course is out, and it's not really signals, it's a trading indicator. You can't just buy when it goes green, and it is, you have to, if it was that easy, then everyone would be a millionaire. It's not just the signal. I'm not telling you to buy or sell. It's a chart trading course, and it's an extra tool, an amazing tool in your toolbox, the indicator. But it will be on Wednesday. JD Vance says it is the beginning to distance himself from Trump. He doesn't want to damage his presidential race. JD Vance is trying to begin to distance himself from Trump. Oh, that's interesting, DJ Haynes. Thank you for that. David Hensley says it's crazy. I'll never understand it. Man said not too religious, but we should respect and not hurt other feelings attached to it. Yeah, I know. Thank you, man. There's a lot of non-religious people that would still respect other people's religions and thoughts. Tidy Big Dog says sticks and stones may break my bones, but names can never hurt me. Says Tidy Big Dog. Potato Family says, oh my god, this is not a political show. I love this group. This is about learning and opportunity to make money. Not to say I hate this president. As an American, this is my president. There we go, Potato Family. Thank you for your thoughts. Everyone is welcome here. And as he said, this is not a political channel. We're reporting on the news, and we're reporting on two heads of countries suggesting the war is over, but not being over, and the market not believing them. Also, Ripple's being sent through the news today on some of these headlines that is going to affect their future races. You'd be surprised by how many of his followers think he's hilarious for saying stuff like that. Rhino Sin said, "Not offended in the slightest. Why should I be?" Yes. Well, again, some non-religious. I assume you're not Christian or Muslim, so you wouldn't be offended by someone uh, degrading an important figure in both religions. So obviously, non-religious people won't. Could I mean some non-religious people? I've seen the comments. Some non. We just had someone up there. Even if you're non-religious, you could still not like the comments. But obviously, if you're religious, you wouldn't like the comments. Rhino Skin says, let's get through all these comments, then come back to it. Let me open this up. Brilliant. And if you're offended, just stop. Let's talk about our future, says Potato Family. Ganja says, I don't understand how there's so many beta males in this world. Jacko says, done. Ganja says, why? What happened to having pride in the country no matter what? Um, Potato Family says, being unhappy for comments won't change the market. I hated Biden, but I supported it. Dan says, yeah, we need to all unify. There's too much separation in the world. Went from 4,500 to 30,000 because of oil stocks. Just sitting back now and watching, says Dan. Congratulations to you. What did he say? He made the comment. Let me bring it up on the screen and then we can move on. He said, Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan. The remark went viral within hours. Essentially, he was insisting. Where was it? Sorry, I had the comparison here. Where did I put it? Sorry, I'm trying to find it for you. Oh, okay, yeah. So he said Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan because if you're strong enough, ruthless enough, powerful enough, evil will overcome good. Essentially dismissing Jesus as no better than a genocidal conqueror. That obviously offended both sides. So saying that Jesus is no better than a genocidal conqueror. Jerry says, I think he's a demon. Sky Daddy, oil prices are only valid if you can actually obtain them. Rationing them would introduce, rationing could be introduced before we get to June, says DJ Haynes. Ninja Cowboy says, agreed. Josie Parker says, funny how everyone thinks it's not a big deal when he belittles Jesus, but when everything is travesty. Jesus is not a punching bag. There we go. Copy that, David. Wadey says, hello all. It's sunny in London for a change. Hoping the portfolio starts to look brighter today as well. We hope so. Christ is king, says Isaac. Jerry says he didn't need to mention Jesus. He should stick to his own lane, says Jerry. Sensei, thank you for helping me understand why I might get offended. I didn't take into account they was talking about religion, and that's very touchy. Thanks, Sensei. No worries, David Hensley. No worries. I mean, I'm not here to change anyone's mind. I'm just here to report on the facts and see what everyone's opinion is before we move on, because this is one of the things that we're talking about today is the end of the war and that press conference from yesterday. And this was a significant part of that press conference yesterday. Funny how everyone thinks it's not a big deal when he belittles Jesus. Yeah, we've read that. Sorry, let me go back now. I know my family came to America to give us a better life. I'm very grateful for that, and I love America. Songs for Space, SMCI executive arrested for smuggling NVIDIA chips to China. Yes, that is in the newsletter today. That was over AI, over Jesus Christ and Genghis Khan. So that was AI over. No, it wasn't AI. That was Benjamin Netanyahu speaking yesterday. Yeah, SMCI is down a lot today. It is the chart of the day, and it is a story in the newsletter today. It's a real question. Where is your God when 300 innocent children are killed or get cancer? I was raised Catholic and Catholic and I lost faith in God. I mean, obviously, there's many arguments to suggest that this life is a test and the next is the important one. So there's many arguments against that, Songs for Space, but I understand your thoughts. If gods didn't exist, then how then people would invent them? No offense, says Tidy Big Dog. Matthew says, I was a post up explaining what TDS is, but I think a snowflake with emotional damage removed it. The chatbot was offended. I didn't see your post. If someone removed it, I would have still seen it. So I don't think anyone did. Maybe it was YouTube itself, depending on how offensive it is. It might not even come to us. Human being Liz says, hi everyone, just drop in a little, not much time. The Almighty is laughing and crying at the same time, I guess. Peace out. Sensei, give us a stock that can double in the next month. That's what we want. SMCI, there you go. Yes, end the war, explode XRP. Just tuning in. Good morning. We're nearly at the end of the comments. If only more people would think like that, then come over here. As an American, I really appreciate your way of thinking. The master of human affairs, the god of gods is truth. Bible explain, well, why he waits still to act. Good morning, everyone. Hello, Liz, says Yolanda. There we go. Through the comments, let's get back to the top stories today. And let's end that poll. Yeah, as I thought, more people were offended than not. 55% of people. A little bit less than I expected, but I mean, I understand why. 55% of people were offended by what the Israeli PM said about Jesus. Let's start a new poll. Will the war end in March? Yes. No. Okay, we've got 20 minutes until Martyn goes live. So let's answer let's go through some more of these top stories. So that's the story about Israel. Let's go on to the next controversial story, shall we? This is going to go down great. Trump invokes Pearl Harbor with Japan's PM drawing grasps. During an Oval Office press appearance yesterday with the Japanese Prime Minister, Sane Takeyachi, a reporter asked why the US did not inform allies before striking Iran. A question that many people have been asking, so they can be prepared for it. But President Trump responded with something that caused a lot of other outrage yesterday. President Trump responded by drawing a parallel to Imperial Japan's 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor, the surprise military strike on the US naval base in Hawaii that killed 2,390 Americans and drew the United States into World War II. It remains one of the most devastating attacks on American soil in history, and the memory of it shaped decades of post-war US-Japan diplomacy. Both nations spent years building a reconciliation framework, with former Prime Minister Abe visiting the Pearl Harbor Memorial alongside President Obama in 2016 to offer condolences. I remember that time, and a lot of Republicans were very happy with what President Obama managed to do then. American presidents have, until now, stewardlessly avoided invoking Pearl Harbor in diplomatic settings with Japanese leaders. It's never really come up until yesterday. The backlash has been swift because the comparison offends on multiple levels simultaneously. Pearl Harbor was a sneak attack by an aggressor nation that killed thousands and triggered America's entry into World War. The US strikes in Iran were a military operation initiated by the world's most powerful country against a regional adversary. By drawing the parallel, and this is why some people don't understand why this was such a big deal, but this is what Martyn is speaking about yesterday as well. By drawing that parallel between the two, Trump did not justify operational secrecy so much as equate America's own he's not really making the point of secrecy. He's just equated America's own military actions, the ones that are ongoing right now, he's equated them with the most condemned strikes of the 20th century, while insulting the alleged leader sitting directly across from him. For Japan, the wound runs deeper still. Trump effectively weaponized the single most painful chapter in the US-Japan relationship as a throwaway line, undoing years of careful diplomatic work by both nations invested in moving beyond that history. An Asahi Shimbun poll shows 82% of the Japanese public oppose the US war in Iran, and Takeyachi was visibly startled. You can see the video Martyn put out yesterday. She avoided rejecting Trump's request for Japanese warship while noting Japan has no plans to dispatch them. The $550 billion Japanese package remains on track, but the Nikkei 225 is down over 9% since the war began. Japan imports roughly 70% of its oil through Hormuz, and the Bank of Japan held rates yesterday in what markets read as a dovish pivot driven by demand fears. The alliance will survive because Japan's security dependence on the US runs too deep, given the threats from China, North Korea, and Russia. But the gaffe erodes the personal diplomacy Takeachi has been building with Trump, and that matters for everything from trade terms to Japan's willingness to assist with Gulf maritime security. Watch the yen at $160, a level Japan's finance minister has called psychologically significant as a pressure gauge on how much strain this relationship can endure. Let's continue with some of our other stories today. Let's go to our story over here about Hormuz standstill deepens as allies issue joint warning. 3 weeks into the Iran conflict, and the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed to commercial shipping, and the crisis is widening. Iranian attacks on Qatar's Ras Laffan liquefied natural gas complex have knocked out 17% of Qatar's LNG export capacity, with 2 of 14 LNG trains and 1 gas to liquids facility damaged. Qatar Energy's CEO estimates repairs will take 3 to 5 years, with roughly $20 million in annual revenue lost. Dubai crude hit a record $166 per barrel yesterday. Jet fuel in Northwest Europe reached approximately $220 per barrel, and European diesel crossed $200 for the first time since 2022. Oil prices have gained almost 50% this month. Brent surged to $119 yesterday before settling at $108 after Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said the war could end a lot faster than people think. And the West Texas Intermediate WTI oil settled at $94. Futures are edging higher again this morning, with Brent approaching $110 on a volatile quadruple witching today. Dow futures are down 280 points. The S&P 500 is off 46 points. The Nasdaq is down 226 in pre-market trading. Yesterday, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, and the Netherlands, Japan, Canada issued a joint statement condemning attacks on commercial vessels and the de facto closure of the strait, expressing readiness to contribute to appropriate efforts to restore safe passage. The language sounds strong, but there is no specific military commitments or naval deployments attached. The EU summit in Brussels failed to reach an agreement on securing the strait, with EU Foreign Policy Chief Callas saying member states do not have an appetite to go to this war. Meanwhile, the conflict keeps spreading. Kuwait's Mina Al Hamdi refinery was hit by drones again overnight. Saudi Arabia intercepted more than a dozen drones, and the UAE air defenses were active against incoming fire. RBC Capital Markets strategists are now watching for signs that the Houthis may enter the conflict, which will imperil the alternative Red Sea export route. Remember, there is essentially another strait next in the Red Sea where the Yemeni Houthis, remember when they were taking over boats, they could get involved and close that one off as well. The International Maritime Organization estimates that 20,000 seafarers on nearly 2,000 ships were trapped west of the strait, with 17 vessel incidents and at least 7 deaths. The US is reportedly considering plans to overtake or blockade Iran's Karg Island, which processes 90% of Iran's oil exports, though no decision has been made yet. Yeah, more escalations there. Let's have a quick look at the markets right now again. Oil, very sticky, around $100. Bitcoin up 1% this morning. Let's go over to the daily time frame, have a better look at these markets. Yeah, Bitcoin, we're still waiting for decision. It didn't manage to break 74,000. If this war goes on for another week, we have escalation over the weekend. We can see Bitcoin actually break this uptrend it's on. And this uptrend, if this breaks and we're back down to 60,000, if we hold it, which we nearly did, we nearly got back above 74,000. If we get back above 74,000, at least we can have a sudden sort of short squeeze or a move up quite fast that could take us to moving averages around 82,000, which will be where some of our moving averages are set. or even all the way back up to 90,000. So that could be about a 20% move up from 74,000, which would be actually from these levels, will be about a 30% move up. You can even go all the way up there just to put in a lower high. And I do think if the war ends, or if we have some bullish news, we can go all the way up to 90,000 just to put in a lower high, and then break some of these lows and come back in for the final capitulation. Because remember, the war will end, everyone will get excited, the markets will pump, and then they'll realize there's been lasting effects on the market, and then they'll realize inflation is a bigger issue than they think, and then they'll realize they still have to potentially raise rates, and then the market can collapse one final time before it all gets sorted. It's not as bad as everyone expects, and then we go into a bull market. So remember, people overreact to both sides, and what I can see happening is maybe the war ending, everyone getting excited, or pushing up to 90,000. Then they realize inflation's a big issue. Then the war, and then the markets come down, and then they overreact because they think maybe we're actually entering a recession or a massive stagflation issue. Then we head down, we go down all the way down to 40,000, and then the data starts suggesting actually it's not as bad as people priced in. The market's overreacted, and then we go into a proper bull run. Or what else could happen? It could be the other way around. The war doesn't end. We don't get a war end. We go all the way into June, which the prediction markets are pricing in. We go all the way. Markets are going down. The war's not ending. Escalation, escalation. Oh, the war might end. No, it doesn't end. It continues. We go into June, and then everyone's going to be more and more scared because inflation's going to become a bigger and bigger issue if they don't sort out the war. Everyone gets scared. Stagflation rumors, recession rumors. The war's gone on too long. Escalation. Boots on the ground. Bitcoin's now at 40,000. The S&P 500's in a bear market, and then finally the war ends. And maybe we get a reaction towards the upside, and then it depends how much damage has actually been inflicted on the market before we declare a massive bull run. But it can go down as well, so be prepared for both scenarios. Remember, the market will always overreact a bit more once it's found its trend. So that's Bitcoin. The S&P 500, same thing. Again, I am looking at this. I haven't bought the S&P 500 yet, and yes, I can be left behind. But I don't really care. There's always opportunities everywhere in the market. I just want to get the best price possible. And right now, the S&P 500 down about 6%. The first target's potentially around another 1% move down. That's around 6,500. Then around 6,400, which is about an 8% move from the peak. But where it'll get really interesting is if we have about a 12% drawdown. If we go over a 10% drawdown, then I'll probably start buying from peak to trough, about a 10% drawdown. That will be another about 5% move down. The S&P 500 will become a lot more appealing to me. Silver and gold, we've been laddering in, but again, it's going to be volatile. Either there's going to be a short-term trade or I hold it long-term. Either way, I'm not too bearish on gold and silver long term, and I think they could have a significant bounce. I even think gold could go to all-time highs in the next few months as well. Let's go back to your comments. Martyn will be live in. I'll be ending the show in about 5 minutes' time. Let me see this. Oh, here we go. We've got something from Martyn here. I want to play on the show. Let me see if I can bring this up. Let me see if I can bring this on the show. Here we go.
Who knows better about surprise than Japan?
And this is Martyn's reaction to it. I'll give you guys a link to it as well. Here we go. Let me put this on the screen. Okay, let me have a quick look at your comments. Remember, we've been discussing Pearl Harbor, Netanyahu's comments about Jesus, Trump's comments about comparing what happened in Pearl Harbor with what he's done in Iran, which is, again, not the best comparison for himself. There's two issues with that. One issue is you're breaking the long-term relationship we've had with Japan and all that all the diplomatic talks that made them get into a good position. You've just said that in front of the Prime Minister of Japan, which is ridiculous. And secondly, you're comparing what you did to what they did. So you're saying what you're doing to Iran is the equivalent of what you're sort of making that comparison as well. So very strange. Let me and again, it's offended people all over the world, especially the Japanese. So let me play this. This is what Martyn reacted to this live, and we've got he was covering this live, and we've got the Martyn's thoughts as well. So let's play the video first.
Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor?
The President of the United States, live with the Japanese Prime Minister, live from the Oval Office, said Japan knows all about surprise. Remember Pearl Harbor? He literally said that to the Japanese Prime Minister live. I am blown away by what he said, but now listen to this. You won't believe it. Let's hear it live from the President of the United States to the Japanese Prime Minister. Here we go.
Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay, Brent?
You heard the gasps.
He's asking me, no, you believe in surprise, I think much more so than us. And we had to surprise him.
What a comment that was. So what do you make of that? That was the President of the United States referring to a big surprise from Japan and Pearl Harbor. That just blows me away. The things that that president will come out with just is beyond. Leave me your thoughts and comments below. Do you agree? Should he have said that? Was that unbelievable, or just Trump being Trump? I've no idea how to work this stuff out. Click over here, click over here.
And here is some thoughts Martyn had as well. He said, sad day today. I walked away from a few friends I had here in the USA as they found what Trump said today. Joking about Pearl Harbor was funny and acceptable. My friends are people online. Where is the America I dreamed about coming to as a kid from England? No show today. I need to think. So yeah, Martyn says he walked away from people, from my people in person friends yesterday, as they are nothing he says is wrong, and I can't stand their closed minds. Okay, so there we go. As you can see here, he has walked away from some friends he had in the US as they found what Trump said today. Joking about Pearl Harbor was funny and acceptable. So there we go. I thought I'd bring that to you. Martyn asked me to share that, and there you are. Let me share that. Let me bring this back on the screen, and we'll be ending the show very shortly. Let me get some final reactions. I know there's going to be some people in the comments that might not like this and might think it's all fine, which is fine. At the end of the day, we all have difference of opinion. I might find this outrageous. Martyn might find this outrageous. What was it? 62% of people might find this outrageous, but there might be some people that don't. And again, we are, at the end of the day, we're still a family together, as long as no one is being too aggressive to anyone else in the chat. The gasp from the Oval Office says, oh yeah, people will gasp. I think even Trump's own team gasped. There was a video of, I forgot who it was, but his own team was gasping when he said that in the Oval Office. The war will end within an hour, so bye, says Rhino Skin. For evil to prevail takes good people to do nothing. Peace and love. The war, thank you. My family came to America in the 1970s, and I don't mind paying taxes and help people. I don't mind spending money on our military to protect the United States. Yes, but the argument isn't, people aren't saying, are we here? They're not disagreeing with protecting the United States. The argument a lot of people are having in the US now is, should taxpayers' money be spent to protect Israel, and not only to protect Israel, but to have strikes first based off no intelligence that Iran was going to strike first. So the question isn't, everyone should have their own military and everyone should have the right to defend themselves, and that's great. But the question a lot of Americans are asking is, should our taxpayer money, or your taxpayer money, I'm not in the US, should your taxpayer money be spent on Israel? Is it Israel first or America first? He stated true facts about the element of surprise, the sneak attack. Yes, but he's okay. That's fine. Digging up old wounds. I'm not going to react. Tiny Big Dog says Japan is a sleeping giant more powerful than we think. Potato Family says, here we go again. Don't understand why this was not. This is not a history channel. Says Potato Family. Well, I apologize, Potato Family. This is on front page news across all news channels, including Fox News. So we had to include the news in the newsletter. Remember, this is not just a market newsletter. It is the news of the day, which you need to be aware of to be investing in the market. Because if you don't know what's going on, remember all the stories from today. And tell me if you don't think these should be in the newsletter. Hormuz crisis spikes fuel prices. Record oil release fails markets. Regulators slash bank capital rules. Trump gave strange Japan's alliance. Remember, these alliances are important for the markets, and if the alliance breaks between Japan and the US, we have much bigger issues than a war. Netanyahu claims victory amid backlash. War victory, very important. Trump, Japan alliance, very important. US rejects oil export ban. So I don't know what you mean. That shouldn't be in the newsletter. This is not a history channel. I'm not giving a history letter. I'm giving the news. It's a newsletter, so I'll give the news. I don't know what you mean. Craig Palmer, keep buying XRP. I'm working overtime to buy more XRP. When it's all over, the rocket to the moon, says Craig Palmer. Tidy Big Dog, the politics and current political situation moves the market. Exactly. Politics and the current political situation moves the market. That's why we need to cover it. Nothing will change with Japan and the USA. Let's move on, says Potato Family. Okay. Mike Wenzel, I think we've annoyed Potato Family today. I apologize if we've frustrated you, Potato Family. Mike Evans says, good morning. Thank you so much for your insights, Mr. Sensei. Thank you, Jack. I really appreciate it. If the war will end soon, why ask for 200 billion, says Song Space. Again, don't trust what Trump says. Don't trust what Netanyahu says. Don't trust what anyone says. Look at the actual things going on. As you say, Songs for Space. Why would you ask for 200 billion if the war's ending? Why would oil prices still be at record high, above $100, near record highs? For example, it is at record highs within Middle Eastern countries. Why would the prices be that high if the war's going to end? If Trump's saying the war's ending very soon, if Netanyahu says we've met all our military objections, and the price is still high, is there a massive mismatch in prices? Is everyone getting it wrong across the world, or do we not trust what they say? We also have triple witching today. Yes, we do. When stock, futures, index options, and contracts expire simultaneously. Yes, it was in the newsletter as well. This quarterly event causes high trading volume and increased volatility. Thank you, Ascend. Yes, we do have that going on. Jacko, yes, so unbelievably, unbelievable, definitely, says Jacko. What was the excuse? Forgot about politics unwinding tonight. Forget about, yeah. There's a piano show tonight. That's when we don't have to talk about markets or politics or anything like that. But I'll see you all there for a bit. How Dramatic says giraffe lens. Dan says lol. Mike says American people are free to think what they want. Martyn is the most American thing ever. Sorry, Martyn. Oh wait, American people are free to think what they want. Martyn, it's the most American thing ever. Mike, I don't know what you mean. That's not BB, says 18. Considering the state of the world, XRP is holding up nicely. Would have eventually go into Iran. You think there's going to be boots in the ground? Well, that will be a massive escalation and the market will crash. Too many babies in this world crying about what people think. Grow up, says Josh. Cheers for the show, Sensei. Thank you, Scottish Pete. Vince, all Christians say Jesus is God. That's literally what defines as a Christian log. Vince, no, there's many Christian. I mean, yeah, I guess. I studied a lot of different things, and there's many Christians that would read the Bible exactly what it says. And again, there's different Christians. I'm not going to get into the religious aspect. Yes, many. I wouldn't say all Christians say Jesus is God, but many Christians say Jesus is God. That defines you as a Christian. Good morning, everyone, says Redden. Trinity says Tidy Big Dog. It's ridiculous how people react nowadays. So woke, says Victoria Green. Human being Liz. Vince, not all Christians say it's God. The most understood is that he's the first son, says Human being Liz. And Human being Liz, I believe, is a Christian as well. I'm sorry, Sensei, still love you. Still love you too, Potato Family. I love it. At the end of the day, we might have difference of opinions. We're mainly going to focus on the markets. We might have difference of opinions, and the great thing about the Lucas family is we still all get along. We're like brothers and sisters. We might argue here a few times, but it's all good. Okay, let's have a final look at the markets, and then we'll be ending the show, waiting for Martyn to come live. Bitcoin is up 0.64% now. Gold is up slightly on the new day. The FTSE's up slightly on the new day. Ethereum very much flat. Why has this changed? We're going to need to bring up the new Nasdaq. Yes, oil is flat on the day. XRP is flat on the day. The S&P 500 is down, but is actually regaining a little bit of its losses in the pre-market, and silver down 1% today. Let's have a look at some of the stocks. Biggest losers are SMCI down 24% today. It is the chart of the day in the newsletter if you want to go check it out. What else do we have? Circle down 2%. Remember the breakout on Circle. The breakout on Circle, $61. Now it's $128. That is something we covered in the newsletter and I think also on the show. That's up 112% in 23 days. Congratulations, anyone with the Circle trade. Salesforce down slightly pre-market. Joby down slightly pre-market. Nothing major moves apart from SMCI and the market continuing its downtrend. Let's see how today evolves, especially with whatever it's called, the triple witching or whatever the word is for all the futures expiring at the same time. Happens once a quarter and today's a day. So be prepared for a volatile day. I think what we're going to do is go to the extra channel and then Martyn will be live. In the next half an hour, I believe. So let me get the extra channel ready. If you guys haven't signed up to newsletter yet, over the weekend is the Discord integration, and then next Wednesday is the chart training course. We are running the 50% off right now. There's 3 people a day that can get it. So if you haven't got it yet, there you go. The link is in the live chat. It's also the first link in the description. Let me bring this over. There we go. Next. Oh, no, that's the wrong link. How have I done that? How has that come up? I apologize. That's not next. Why is that not working? Bear with me. I want to bring up the extra channel because that's where we'll be going. Let me end the poll as well.
Reported it. There's
Here we go. That's the extra channel. Next. We can pin that. Let me see if there's any final questions and then we can end today's show. Woke will add so many colors to rainbow or fall out the bloody sky, says Tidy Big Dog. Guys, I genuinely think there's a difference between being woke and also caring about what a world leader says about a religion that will affect many Christians and Muslims around the world. Remember, Jesus Christ is a big figure across these 2 religions, and if someone is going to be degrading this figure to a genocidal world leader, not Netanyahu, even though some say he is. I'm talking about Genghis Khan. They're going to be comparing it to him, and saying that Genghis Khan could defeat Jesus. Then obviously that's not really. People can be offended by that and not be woke. So yeah. Anyway, hi folks. Top Show said so. Yes, Liz is still here. Says Yolanda. I hope I didn't offend anyone in this live stream. I hope you guys. Someone mentioned something. Potato Family mentioned something about that story being in the newsletter. It was mainly is purely for for the fact of the alliance and the war ending news. So if you actually go read the newsletter, it's very much about that. It's important news to be covered. But yeah, 99% of the time it's purely news stories, but sometimes we have to cover those stories as well. We sit at the last doctor, says human being Liz. Any final comments from anyone before we end the show? Let me know in the chat. No final comments. I'll give it a minute. Let me see if I've missed anything. Vin's not all Christians say is God. The most understood is that's the first son, says human being Liz. Yeah, there's many Christians. I mean, I've got many Christian friends that would say that they pray to the same God that Jesus prays to. And in the Bible, nowhere does it really say he's God. So there's different ways to interpret it. There's different Bibles, and all that sort of stuff. So and I think Liz suggesting that as well. We can't switch to Discord here on the font same time. Thank you, Sensei. No worries, guys. I've been avoiding all the drama. Says Chippy Chip Gaming. It's fine. It's been an interesting show. We've had a few differences of opinion. The polls were all about 50-50. If we go up, we had a poll on were you offended by the Israeli PM comments? 55% of people were offended by the Jesus comments made by Netanyahu yesterday. So 50-50. Okay, will the war end in March? 61% of you say no. The market's also pricing in no. They're actually pricing in middle of June. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This weekend is going to be a weekend full of training course for me. The final finishing touch of the training course, the Discord integration. So I look forward to bringing that to everyone. Round 2 on Martyn's show, says Potato Family. Good luck, Potato Family. Thank you for tuning in. Stay where you are. You'll go over to the extra channel. It's also pinned to the top. You've also got the 50% off link if you haven't taken advantage of it. If you are on the newsletter, keep an eye out for correspondence on how to get yourselves on Discord. If you're already on Discord as well, you'll see the perks on there. If you're on the newsletter and Discord, then you would unlock extra channels on Discord if you're already a newsletter subscriber and a Discord subscriber. Then we'll explain it all, but you're going to get more perks and benefits, and that integration's coming. The chart training course on Wednesday. Look forward to it all. Let's all love each other. Thank you, guys. Yes, you explained it right about who he prayed to. Yes, human being Liz. Thank you, human being Liz. Thanks, Sensei, and everyone else. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.